My spouse, a 31-year-old woman, and I, a 36-year-old man, were wed for 6 years when I discovered a devastating truth that ended our union. Because the companies we worked for were located on the same street and we saw each other frequently before we were married, my wife and I had a strong friendship before we were married. Nevertheless, I was forced to relocate to the state where I currently reside since I was constantly looking for better opportunities. My wife was the only person who consistently called to see how I was doing when I moved to start my new job. We spoke on the phone the entire evening and exchanged messages during the day. My best friend and family were the only people who didn't call. I quickly developed feelings for her since it felt wonderful to know that someone was thinking about me. We had been apart for months when I asked her out. Since she was also single, she accepted. And that's how our love story started. We had a more distant relationship, yet despite that, I felt so much love and trust for her. We alternated weekend visits and other times when we had spare time, and I made an effort to stay in touch with her. We were married after 2 years of long-distance dating, and she was compelled to move to live in my state. Fortunately, she was able to secure a well-paying position in her industry. She also had a strong sense of passion for her work, which helped her advance fast inside the company. It had to do with the additional certificates she earned throughout her years of experience as a professional. We had a beautiful marriage, and I was pleased, but so did the other one. I could not have imagined being with any other lady but her since I loved her so deeply. I thought we would age together. We first decided before we were married that we wouldn't start a family right away, as I didn't think I was ready to be a parent. However, I had a change of heart a year into our marriage. She was excited to cease taking her birth control pills when we discussed it again. Luckily for us, a few months later, she became pregnant and gave birth to a boy. A healthy amount of delight accompanied our son's birth, and he inspired me to work even harder so I could raise him. To make some extra money, I even took on a second freelance online job. However, my spouse already had a full-time job taking care of our child, so she didn't need another one. I told her to work as little as possible and to rest as much as possible. I will take care of the rest. She eventually went back to work when our son was over a year old, and things carried on as before. Our son was the one thing that separated our lives. My wife started dressing differently a few months after she returned to work, which was not like her before our baby was born. She would practically wear anything as long as the colors were good and didn't really give a damn what she wore. But things changed when she started working again. The point is, I didn't mind that she dressed differently or paid attention to what she was wearing. I was more focused on her appearance as a result of the clothes. Her clothing were too tight to hide her stomach, which was unusual for someone who had just given birth, but she didn't care. She would even go so far as to wear spectacles that showed off her breasts and a small area beneath her hips. Her response to my complaints about her new wardrobe and my inability to fit in with it was always the same. I'm not wearing them for you, I'm wearing them for me. And with that, she would storm out of the home. We began arguing over it when it became so terrible, and I eventually learned that she had changed her clothes because she didn't feel comfortable in her own skin. Yes, her pregnancy had caused her to gain a significant amount of weight and alter her body. She claimed that she started dressing differently because she wanted to seem and feel younger. To be honest, I felt bad for making her morph into something more like a call lady. I really apologized and decided not to bring it up again. Meanwhile, my spouse was primarily responsible for our son. We signed him up for daycare, where I would pick him up at approximately 3:00 p.m., and she would drop him off in the morning before going to work. Every day. One day I had a scheduled pickup for our son, but I couldn't leave in time due to an unforeseen work issue. My wife was unresponsive when I tried to get in touch with her to let her know about the change in plans. I was hesitant to show up as though I had picked up our son without telling her as the clock approached 3:00 in the afternoon. I contacted her job since I was getting more and more worried about not hearing back from her when I called. I was shocked to hear that she had been fired a few months prior for having a romantic involvement with an intern. I first checked my phone to be sure. I had called the right organization, and sure enough, I had. My wife left the house every morning at 7:30, frequently returning late since she was claiming overtime, so the discovery seemed confusing. I was so stunned that it took me a few minutes to gather my thoughts before I could answer the caller. In the end, I asked a coworker to fill in for me, and I went to pick up her son. That day, when I went home, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had discovered. She would even come home and continue to act like she was working on her laptop to make me not suspect anything, just to demonstrate how excellent she was at acting. When she finally got home that evening, she talked about everything that had happened throughout her workday. I remained composed, went along with it, and appeared not to realize she was lying to me. Before leaving for home that day, I went to a store and bought one of those little trackers, since I was interested in finding out where she went every morning and came back in the evening. I slipped the tracker into her car's back seat the next morning, kissed her goodbye, and put her son in it. I began chasing her as soon as she left the house. She made her initial stop, as was to be anticipated, at her son's daycare before moving on to somewhere else, certainly not her office. She spent a few hours there before leaving and coming back to the same residence. I followed her for a full week, and everything continued in the same way, until one day I made the decision to pay her an unexpected visit. I called in sick to work on the day she left the house as normal, telling me that I would be going to her lover's place and that she would be returning late due to an important project she was working on. In the meantime, I had previously visited the house to find out the precise apartment she was moving into and to get a glimpse of her partner's appearance. Every time she went there, he, who was younger, opened the door to greet her. I knocked on the door, posing as a pizza delivery guy, when I got there. They didn't order pizza, so at first I was afraid they wouldn't open the door, but I was just fortunate. I shoved my way inside as soon as the young lad she was seeing opened the door. My wife froze when she saw my wife walking in on a snake at the same moment. Since I was ready, I filmed a Facebook Live video of myself from the time I got out of my car till I went to her lover's house. She attempted to cover her face and flee back inside when she discovered I was filming her, but she stumbled and fell as a result of leaving the restroom. I know it's harsh, but I took advantage of the chance to properly film her and express my desires. To say I'm just heartbroken would be an understatement. She essentially ruined our son's life as well as everything we planned and shared. I told her not to come home that day, so she didn't even bother. It took her a week to come get her belongings after I packed them on our front porch. She was really embarrassed when I tagged the majority of her family and friends in the live video I made as payback. She undoubtedly read every comment, and some of them were really funny. Strangely enough, she never made an effort to plead with me or give an explanation. It was obvious to her that our relationship was over. She was smart enough to avoid dragging her affair into our house, which could have had long-term repercussions for both her and her partner. With the help of an experienced attorney, I was able to get custody of our son after our divorce. She made the decision to leave town after being subjected to the scrutiny and disgrace of everyone in our community. Neighbors, friends, and churchgoers, which was made worse by a widely shared live broadcast. As of right now, I am the only parent our son looks up to, and a test has confirmed my belief that he is our father. I'm taking a vacation from romantic relationships in order to focus all of my energy on raising my son and giving him a happy existence. Let's now explore the second tale. We shared the dance floor as a groomsman and bridesmaid duo at a mutual friend's wedding, which is how I first got to know Andrea. We started off as contacts, became close friends, interacted on social media, and gradually spent more time together. I asked her to be my girlfriend after 4 months of getting to know her, and she moved in with me soon after. I wanted to wake up next to her every morning because of my intense love for her, even if some people would not agree with my decision to move in together After just 6 weeks of dating, Andrea was a web engineer who worked remotely. She was not only pleasant to be around and a fantastic companion, but she also had a sense of humor that I loved. There were ups and downs in our 2 years together. In the first year, she suddenly became frigid, which strained our relationship. We used to cook together and discuss about my workday before her attitude changed. She would also mention how simple or difficult her work was that day. Suddenly, though, I realized that she was becoming more preoccupied with her phone and leaving me to watch TV by myself. After a while, I discovered that she was teasing someone online and that they were going to get together the next week. She was flirting with a guy she met on Facebook, and they were going to hang out, which infuriated me so much. The most irritating thing about their heated conversations was that she didn't try to stop him from flirting with her or inform him she was in a relationship. She appeared to be enjoying it. She apologized and said they were just kidding around, and nothing serious happened when I challenged her about it. She vowed it would never happen again and blocked him to show me there was nothing serious going on between them. Thinking about it, that ought to have raised a warning flag for me. I should have broken up with her, even though flirting with someone online does not always mean you should end a relationship. You never know how far someone's flirtation could have gone if you were unaware of it. Well, we got married a year after that. She never flirted with anyone again, and on the days when I would ask to look through her phone without warning, I never discovered anything unusual. After 2 years of marriage, we didn't have children since we didn't want any. In the meantime, Andrea and his wife were close friends, and I had a really close acquaintance who was almost like a family member. Our tiny circle of friends consisted of 2 males without a partner and 4 married couples. We never really formed, but we always got together and helped each other out when things were tough. They were my support system, other than my family. If one of us was going through a difficult period, like financial difficulties, we would all try to support each other, even if it meant making a financial contribution. We would all go out to eat and celebrate when things were going well. I had just sold a very costly house to a client who had been difficult to work with, and I had already promised my friends that I would throw a $500 bill party if we were able to come to an agreement. Although the invitation was only intended for our friendship group's members, we ended up with a total of 13 guests. That is, excluding their children. My phone's battery was becoming low during the party, so I went to our bedroom to grab my charger, or more likely, to charge it there. I couldn't help but become sidetracked when one of our pals posted a quick humorous video on our group chat. It just so happened that my wife was giggling and spoke to a man right after the video ended. Our bedroom door was half open, and they had no idea I was in there. So they went into the kitchen after stopping for a quick kiss. I was so surprised that even though I didn't see them kiss, I could tell they did because of the sound. After all the promises Andrea had made, I could not believe she was cheating on me. I was devastated. Not only did her infidelity sting, but it was with my closest friend in our group as well. It was humorous, since his wife was in the living room with their 2 girls and had no idea what was going on. Feeling extremely enraged, I considered approaching them, but I realized that would just escalate the situation. I proceeded to the kitchen, but not before making myself known with a light cough, giving them ample opportunity to act as if nothing was wrong between them. After a quick conversation, I took their water bottle and walked away. However, I first activated my phone's audio recorder and placed it in a very natural position so that even if they happened to see it, they wouldn't suspect anything strange. I took it and paid close attention to everything they said not long after they had left the kitchen. That night, they were going to hang together, and my wife had already come up with the ideal scheme to get rid of me. That devastated me even more to hear. So I thought of a scheme. I was familiar with a few audio editing tricks before then. I therefore altered the audio and underlined the passage in which they discussed their affair and how they would quickly get rid of us. By that, they meant that her partner in the affair would divorce his wife and Andrea would divorce me. Later that evening, I feigned to know nothing and let her carry out her plan. My heart was already accustomed to that kind of suffering because I had experienced heartbreak twice before. I forwarded the tape, in secret, to all of her friends' email addresses the next day, including the addresses of her affair partner and his spouse, and I watched to see how everyone responded. They were initially taken aback by what they had heard and found it hard to believe. When one of them contacted to inquire whether I had received any audio from an anonymous email, and I answered no, he forwarded it to me, which is how I knew they had listened to the audio. I feigned surprise and took the chance to speak with Andrea. To be honest, I assumed she would act innocent and deny anything, but instead she broke down in tears and begged me. She said that she cheated on me because she was looking for other possibilities and felt trapped in our relationship, almost like a prisoner. Then she pleaded with me to pardon her and spare our developing future from being ruined by her adultery. How daring. Andrea told me she was a one-man lady and that she had never strayed on her husband and would never do so I was surprised to hear that she was talking about wanting options. It was therefore unexpected to learn that she desired options. I was hurting on the inside, even if I seemed tough on the outside. I wanted what we had to work because I loved her so deeply. In the end, I granted her a divorce so she could move on and be with her partner. I had assumed that her lover's wife would file for divorce, but she didn't. He persuaded her that he was being set up in some way, and she fell for it. What a moron she was. They even severed their connection with our organization and denigrated everyone for not supporting them. Regarding Andrea, she no longer belonged with us and severed her connections with our social network as well. When Andrea revealed that they had been deceiving everyone, including me, and that their affair began 6 months after our wedding, everyone was devastated. Her reputation was destroyed as well, and she was unable to obtain assistance or favors. Even though it has only been 9 months, I thought that posting this here would hasten my healing and lessen my load. To be honest, that was all I had left in my heart, and I cannot promise that I will love any other lady that I come across in its entirety. I've been severely injured, and it has completely altered who I am. Let's go on to the second tale now. The second tale after cheating on me with her ex, my ex-girlfriend is now asking for another opportunity. How should I proceed? Hello everyone, please excuse the lengthy read, but I truly need some objective assistance. This girl I met a few months back, and she was often telling me about her violent partner. After a few meetings, she seemed incredibly sweet, and we started dating. Shortly after, she ended her relationship with her boyfriend. She also persuaded me that she had psychologically left the relationship months prior, and I had shown her the value of having a companion. She also refused to remove him from the picture, which irritated me, but I decided to overlook it because everyone handles things differently. After a difficult period when the ex was in the photo, everything improved, and she made the decision to block him and concentrate on us. While the breakup was still fresh, I also informed her that I could be her friend for as long as she wanted me to be, until nobody else was involved. She dropped me off at the airport for my 3-week vacation that was booked for last month. Everything appeared to be going smoothly, and even if there were certain difficulties typical of long-distance relationships, the holiday itself had its positive points. She picked me up from the airport when I got back, and we had a great time. But the very next day, she started a pointless dispute about how unhappy she was with the trip, and suggested calling it quits, but she decided against it because my family was coming to visit later. She met her ex again the day after I returned, and I found out about this a few days after I left. She also claimed that I hadn't viewed the inappropriate video of her that I had discovered. There has been a pattern of infidelity and lying in this case. I informed her that I would let her know if I changed my mind and that we should stop talking. After a week, she got in touch with me, said she had good reasons for what she did, and asked for another opportunity. She claims that because of her prior traumas, she has become avoidant and afraid to show vulnerability. She would therefore constantly question whether she had made the proper decision whenever we had a disagreement. She is prepared to respond to any inquiries and even provide all of her passwords because she genuinely regrets and feels embarrassed about what she has done. All I want to know is whether it's worth it to give this a shot. She does appear to be eager to better herself and demonstrate to me her potential as a companion. She claims that she is now totally focused on completing that task, and she only has me on her mind. Any recommendations? TLDR. The girlfriend wants another chance to prove herself and work on herself after cheating on her ex.